Tariffs go back all the way to the Silk Road.
Yep.
We're talking about ancient China.
Okay.
3 of the next 5 largest economies in the world are individual states in the U.S.
Yeah. And she used to sell them for $62. And now because of the tariffs, she had to sell them for $82.
Now in America, tariffs have been around since the country started because that's how the government paid for itself.
Yeah. Why are we hearing so much about it now?
The reason we're hearing about it now is because
More than money, it's about empowerment. Welcome to MSI Wealth Chronicles. My name is Ricardo Mendiola, and this is
Jessie Hartman. I'm the business development manager here. And today we're talking about something that actually scares me a little to talk about. You know it?
Why is that?
Well, you know.
Well, tell everybody what we're talking about first.
All right. We're talking about tariffs today. Tariffs, kind of giving people the explanation, let them know a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing because it affects everyday consumers.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so let's talk about that. And then, first, could you explain to everybody what a tariff is?
Sure.
For those that don't know,
a tariff is a percentage that is put on the cost of something. So if you're trying to sell something here in America and it's from another country, they put a tariff on it. Let's say it's 10%, right? When that comes over, 10% of the value has to be paid to the U.S. government, right? That 10% is actually paid by the American, not by the foreign country.
Yeah.
Now, that is how the basis of tariffs work. A lot of countries have used them.
So rewind, so I could even understand a little bit better. So. Okay, repeat again what tariff is.
Sure.
It's a charge.
It's a charge.
Typically percentage is what I read as well.
Yep.
Okay.
But it is charged to the first consumer here in the country. So
the
let's
consumer
say
purchasing it?
Yes, the purchaser.
Or the manufacturer, let's say in China.
China doesn't get charged that.
Okay.
But anything coming from China would. So let's say you wanted to order a shipment of rubber ducks from China, right? When they get here, you bought $10,000 in rubber ducks, right? At 125%, you're going to pay a lot for those rubber ducks. You're going to pay that amount, not the manufacturer.
Okay.
Then what happens at that point in time, how it affects and gets in the economy is I paid 125%. So let's say that's $25,000 to get those all together for the ducks, right? Between the cost and them, right?
Okay.
Now I have to divide the number of ducks into that and then put my percentage I need to make on top of it and then sell those.
Yep.
So really it hits the people who are buying in bulk.
So is that the only, so I can understand, because I'm sure if I have the same question, others might have the question as well. Because I was, whenever I was doing a little bit of research, I was reading that there was this small business, she created journals, and but they're like fancy journals, and she used to sell them for $62, and now because of the tariffs, she had to sell them for $82.
Correct.
So based on what she told me, I understood that the tariff was affecting her. She was having to pay because she said she was having to pay almost $1 million per year in tariffs. So she's the small business that was buying
from China. And but she's paying the tariffs on what's coming over.
Okay, so it's whoever. Okay, so that makes sense. What you just said then. So it doesn't matter if you're a regular consumer buying stuff from China, or you're a business buying stuff from another country, whatever. I just said China as an example. Whoever's purchasing it is whoever is paying the tariff.
Yes, essentially, yes. The tariff itself is paid by the person who does the bulk purchase. So if I bought those 10,000, I was the original buyer of the 10,000 ducks, I pay the tariff. You as the consumer are going to end up paying that tariff too, because I have to increase my price because it costs more.
Yep.
Now, I hear a lot. So that's how it trickles. It literally trickles into the economy.
That was the next question that I wanted to clarify with everybody is how tariffs affect pricing. Like, let's say here in the U.S.
Right.
And you went into it a little bit. Could you further explain a little bit about that?
Sure. When it comes to the pricing, what happens is that anything that is affected by that tariff. So let's take steel for an example, right? If there's a tariff on steel, it's going to run up the cost of cars.
Yep.
It's going to it's going to increase the cost of your lawnmower, your chainsaw, your saws. It's going to increase the cost of any joints that are metal that go into your house. Yep. Anything that's got a steel component in it is going to raise fractionally or percentage based on what that tariff is. So if it happens in steel, it happens in silicon, which is why sometimes you'll see tariffs on certain items and not on others. Yeah. Because yes, we need to, at one point they'll say, well, we need a tariff on this, but we don't need a tariff on this because dang it, we need that item. Yeah. And so they may not put a tariff on an item because the cost would be too much of a strain on the economy itself.
And how long have tariffs been around? Because we keep hearing them now. We keep hearing about tariffs all the time. Whenever we turn on the TV, turn on the news, it's all tariffs. Do you know how long they've been around?
Tariffs go back all the way to the Silk Road.
Yep.
We're talking about ancient China.
Okay.
The Silk Road was the road from the middle from China all the way to Europe, right? And every country along the way charged a small amount. Here's a fun fact. Do you know Turkey? Istanbul, right? Okay. Used to be Constantinople. We all heard this song, right? There is a treaty, the oldest tariff treaty in history, happened and was held over from the Byzantine Empire to Turkey today, where there is no tariff on the one river that goes between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Oh, wow. They are currently building a faster canal, like the Panama Canal, on the other side of the same city that they'll be able to charge on. But that's how old. We're talking about tariffs go all the way back to then. Yeah. Now, in America, tariffs have been around since the country started because that's how the government paid for itself. Yeah. And that was really the majority of where the government money came from. Yeah. And eventually would be boosted by income tax and other kinds of taxes starting, I don't remember the dates, but it's around the Mexican-American War. And
that was interesting what you just said, because whenever I was doing a little bit of research, I saw that as well, that I don't think people realize how much of a income stream that is for the country. I didn't realize how high it was. Do you know a little bit more about that? Is it the top revenue source?
I don't, but I bet you it is one of the. Okay. I'm not willing to say it is the top revenue source, but I would be willing to say it is one of the top revenue sources. Because their tariffs, they've been tariffs the whole time. Yeah. It's now in the limelight, and we're seeing what it is, and people are like, well, they have tariffs on us, and we have tariffs on them, and you're right, it's been that way since the beginning.
And so, why are we hearing so much about it now?
The reason we're hearing about it now is because we have had for, I'd say, about 30 or 40 years, a lot of free trade agreements going on, especially in North American free trade agreement and that type of thing, where there were items that we did not charge tariffs to each other going back and forth, right? Okay. And now, our current president is making adjustments to those tariffs. Yeah. And because they are larger than what you normally see. Yep. Just like a few years ago when the feds kept raising the prime rate, and everybody was talking about it then because we never saw those kind of jumps before. Yeah. It's the same kind of scenario. It is the big thing happening right now because it could very well affect our economy. And
so the whole point of this is to bring in more revenue to America, right? That's the whole point of this?
Actually, that's not traditionally the reason they do it. Okay. There's a couple of reasons, but the one I want to talk about with the most common is either to protect an industry or increase the people in this country doing an industry. Mm-hmm. So think about it this way. Let's take Let's go back to our rubber ducks, right? Because that is a non-offensive thing to talk about, rubber ducks. Don't want to get anybody mad. So let's say you take those rubber ducks, and we want American factories making rubber ducks, right? Well, how do you do that? Well, they have to be able to, if China or let's say Mexico or even Europe or Africa or whatever country it is making the rubber ducks can make it at a lower cost than we can.
Yeah, everybody's going to go there.
And then they're all going to buy from there, and the business, that industry won't ever build here.
Yep.
To give that industry an opportunity to build itself, they charge a tariff to increase that amount of people who are willing to go into it. And so if the rubber ducks go from 10 cents a piece to $1 a piece to buy them foreign, and now I can build them here for 50 cents, then the American company will have a chance to be able to do business.
So revenue, businesses, just, help out the American economy, right?
It can. The problem, though, with that comes is that you have to be able to make it not only make sense, but find the people who build the companies.
Yeah.
And then eventually have it to where they can compete.
Yeah. Because I read somewhere also that they did something with the auto industry. And then I guess it caused too big of a disruption, and he paused the tariffs in that industry.
I think it was steel, actually. I think it was steel.
Okay. And I'm assuming it's like anything else. You make a move, and sometimes you don't realize how big of a disruption it's going to be, and sometimes you have to pause it for a second and make some adjustments.
So one of the things to think about, Detroit, Flint, Michigan, we all have heard about all the terrible things that happen up there. What people think about now when you think about Detroit and Flint, you think about them as being poor places, right?
Yeah.
They were economic monsters less than 60 years ago, 70 years ago. 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, I want to say 4 and 5 cars that were built and ran on our roads in America were built right there.
Oh, wow.
Right? Pontiac was there. Ford was there. Chevy was there. Right? Well, eventually they shut down all those, and now we think of them as poor. Well, that's because a lot of those factories went to other countries.
Yeah.
And that is one of those things that people worry about, and one of your prime points that, hey, if we don't have a protection for it, it'll go away, type of thing.
Yeah. And I also heard that, America has the biggest economy. We purchase our consumers purchase the most things, right?
If the world had a $1, 100 pennies, 55 cents of that dollar would be in the United States.
Really?
That's how much
compared
money
to the whole world, 55 cents
if
in
the
America,
whole world
and then 45% to the rest of the world?
Yep.
Wow.
Just to give you an idea how much economic power the United States has. Yeah. Matter of fact, if you take United States out of it, I want to say 3 of the next 5 largest economies in the world are individual states in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like California itself is the 6th largest economy in the world.
Yeah. Wow.
That's over crazy. Countries.
Wow.
I look like I surprised you there.
So what would you, is there anything that a consumer has to do, to better prepare themselves?
The biggest preparation right now that you can do, and I'm real serious about this, is adjust what you're buying and where you're buying and keeping up with what's going on. Right now, if you see something get hit with a tariff, the big plan is to buy before that a tariff affects that industry, or you're going to need to wait.
Yeah.
And
so in other words, keeping up with what areas there's going to be tariffs.
Yep.
Tariffs means there's going to be an increase in price. So keeping up with where the tariffs are going to hit, and getting that product that you're needing beforehand, right? Is that what you're
either
saying?
get it beforehand or find an alternative to it. Okay. This is a really great time to shake up your own expenses. I know that sounds terrible. It really does. Yeah. But we all get into ruts and we buy the same thing over and over and over and over and over because it works, right? It's time to try. If you bought, item A for the last 10 years, it may be time to look at item B, C, and D. Yeah. Because A may cost 3 times as much. Yeah. As an alternative you find somewhere else. Yeah. And in the way the tariffs are being turned on and off, that's going to cause a little confusion with it.
So what if it's too late? What if a certain product, certain industry that you were looking at making a purchase in has already went up. Would you recommend that they go ahead and bite the bullet and purchase? Would you recommend that they wait and maybe the tariff goes away? Or
depends on what it is. You know, if something is going to be there for a while, if it's a big ticket item, you know, then I would wait unless it's an emergency.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I didn't look up the tariffs of what's going on in the last few days. I know steel was one of them. They went on and they came off and they went on, I think.
Yeah.
But, you know, we bought a car before the tariffs hit because I wasn't going to buy one afterwards.
Yeah.
My choices was buy my wife a new car, which we did this last week, thanks to you, by the way. Your advice did that because, you know, the whole HELOC thing. So thanks for that again. But we bought a car, ended up getting it at a price, and watched that car go up $4,000 in 2 days.
From the tariffs?
I don't know if those tariffs went back down, but at the time the answer was yes.
Yeah.
Those were price increases that were already planned. And the guy, I happened to have been really nice to the salesperson, and he called me up and says, "Hey, they're going to increase the cost on that car you want, like a day after, like the day." Or the day before. The day before I was planning on buying it. So we had to scrape the money together faster to go ahead and get it. Saved ourselves about $4,000.
What did you end up getting? I don't think I asked you.
Bought my wife our very first brand new car.
Oh, congratulations.
It was pretty amazing. It had 8 miles on it. I didn't know what to do with that. Bought her a Honda Pilot.
Oh yeah, you did tell me.
It's silver with a kind of a white and black interior to it.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, it's got some neat things in it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's a whole table you put your phone on and it just sits there and charges it while you're driving. Yeah. It's awesome.
So do you know, speaking about the auto industry, is it too late? Do you know if that's already been hit?
I heard that the steel thing was flipping over, and that but any car coming from China, I might be looking at European cars right now.
Yeah,
American cars probably even more so. Anything that's built here.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that it necessarily I'm not looking at a Honda, or I'm not necessarily looking at a Hyundai, or I'm not necessarily not looking at certain. Well, those are Japanese, but you know, something that comes from there or parts. You want to know how much of that car is built from parts from there or materials from there. Yeah. Because it could push it up, and any large tariff on a major country like China, or any large country is going to push some of the costs up. So is it too late? I really need to look. I need to follow my own advice and go check what the tariffs are and what they're sitting on, and go, is it a good time? Is it not? I didn't look again because we got calls and been talking to them at the time, and they were like, hey, we're going to increase costs. Yeah. But
so let me ask you a question. So who wins? Like who's going to end up winning with all these tariffs that are being placed now? What would you tell the consumer? Are we going to win, the consumers? Is it the government? Is it another country? Is it the U.S.? I mean, what do you think?
If I had
my opinion.
In my opinion, the government makes more out of this than anybody else does, no matter which government it is. Yeah. Because the tariffs, they're going to get paid or they're not. Yeah. Right? Can the people win out of this? If we have enough people who have money willing to sink them into building new companies and we keep the tariffs. Yeah. Because the thing about a tariff is if I put a tariff on something now and in 5 years drop it off, then we better be ready. Whatever that business is needs to be ready at the end of that 5 years, because there are going to be new people bringing it in.
Is it true? I don't know if you saw this anywhere, but is it true that there was a lot of countries that had tariffs on us, but we didn't have any on them?
There have been tariffs on almost every country in the world from every other country. People talking about now, some of them we didn't have tariffs in certain sectors, and they had tariffs on us, and that is true. Yeah. But there were other sectors we had tariffs on them, and they had tariffs on us. It really comes down to that same trying to protect. Yeah. Everybody uses a certain percentage of that type of thing to protect their industries. Yeah. Just because if you don't, you will not have that in your country. Yeah. And otherwise, so is that true? Yeah, to a degree. Yeah. To a degree, it is. Is it unilaterally that true across the board? No, there's always tariffs on both sides of a fence.
Yeah. And where would you recommend for people to stay, on top of, all the information about the tariffs? What's your go-to platform?
My go-to platform, I actually use 2 or 3 different places. I will be honest with you. I will go to if I can find something that is left, right, and center, that I pull them all together and look at all 3.
Yeah.
That really is where I want to find the truth at, because everybody's got an opinion on why they're doing it, right? And I'm an old school moderate. That's as far as I'm going to get into politics. My belief is to try to find out as much as I can.
Yeah.
And if you really want to know for sure, I bet you if I take a little time, there is a place the government puts out exactly what their tariffs are.
Yeah.
And I bet you that would, at the end of the day, be the best place to go look if you want to know for sure.
Yeah, because I would say that would be one of the most important things, right? If we're telling, consumers that be aware of tariffs hitting a certain industry, purchase before, purchase before or hold off or go another route with a different, product, maybe like you said, made in the USA or something.
Right.
But yeah, so I would say that, keep it up to date with all the education as far as, tariffs, when they're going to launch new tariffs and stuff like that, that would be really important.
Buying locally is also, I know that sounds funny, buying locally in these kind of situations is a really good choice.
Yeah.
Because if they're a local business, they're running a little more on a little less of a profit scale that your larger businesses typically are.
Yeah.
And they're trying to keep up, so that you may be it may be a good time to look at local purchasing. Because
that's what I was reading. I was reading, I saw somewhere that the government, I think Trump was already talking about how many businesses were already coming back to America because of the tariffs. Because I guess it was going to be cheaper for them versus having a plant somewhere else, maybe. And then every time they exported stuff to the U.S., they would be charged. In essence,
there are some businesses that have to come back. That if they want to continue selling here, they will have to come back.
Yeah.
If we keep it going up, I mean, I've even heard as much as one of the shipping companies that ship from other countries here said the amount of tariffs he's paying on a single Connex, which is those big, they're about the size of an 18-wheeler, right? That's a Connex, and for a single one of those, the tariffs they're paying on was more than the profits they made on 2.
Oh, wow.
So some of it, they just either quit shipping it, and there's even been rumors of some of it being dumped at sea.
Wow.
Because nobody back home wants it.
Yeah.
And it's not worth it. Like the people who bought it here would pay more for it and make absolutely no money. It becomes a $0 value.
Wow, that's crazy. But is there anything else that you wanted to share with us in reference to the tariffs that you think is important for everybody to know?
One of the things I tell you is you do shop locally, shop smart, keep up with the tariffs that are going on out there. I mean, if you check the news, check more than one place, and check often, because right now we've had a lot of up down.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Pause on this.
Yeah, pause on that. Start on this.
Increasing it. Yeah.
And I have, because of that whole whirlwind of that, I don't know how everything's going to get affected, because at some point it was everything, and then it was only some things, and then it was a couple of things, and then you never know. You
have to really keep up with it, because whatever changes today, it could change tomorrow.
And it
seems like it's all over the place right now.
And that's the thing, is that until they settle into something, in my opinion, this is my opinion now, of looking at the economy, until they settle in to where the tariffs are, that's when we're going to see actual changes in business. Yeah. Because until somebody goes, no, he's not going to take that steel cost down, we need to start mining steel here. Or whatever it is, it could be tapioca pudding. I don't actually care until there's a for sure that item's going to be taxed to a point that we need a local homegrown version. Then that's when we're going to see the business really start coming back. Yeah,
I really think that this will be for the better. Just kind of like this administration said that hold on, there's going to be a little bit of disruption, and then everything will be a little bit better. I'm really believing that. I mean, it's kind of like, it's kind of like whenever a business is failing. I mean, how much debt was America in before this new administration came in? I don't know the exact number, but I know it was a lot.
Trillion.
Yeah. And so anyways, it's like a failing business. And an auditor comes in, makes recommendation, your overhead is too high. What do? They start trimming the fat. And even this administration said that. They said, what do? You typically trim as much as you can. You could always easily bring back. And so, I just feel like that's what they've been doing. And I really do believe there's going to be disruption. We can see it right now.
Right.
But I really do believe that it's going to, all the turbulence will calm down. That's just my opinion.
I'm actually not completely opposed to tariffs.
Yeah.
I think tariffs used strategically are a smart thing.
Yeah.
I fall a little more in Ronald Reagan's opinion.
Yeah.
Which is that tariffs can disrupt an economy and halt growth.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's one of those. It's something that should be in. I mean, if we want to build a particular type of industry back in the United States, then that is one way to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of on the 50-50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's see what happens.
We will
but
see,
I'm a little
right?
scared.
All right. But anything else?
No, just monitor what's going on. Make sure you're buying smart. Make sure you have your mind open about buying something different than you normally do. I can't tell you how important that really is right now because you might find something you never knew you liked before.
Yeah.
And right now is the time to be able to do that. Be a penny pincher right now. Be smart with your money.
Adapt to the change.
Yeah, because what may have cost you, $2 in the past, maybe $10 tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. But good stuff. Thank you very much, Mr. Jessie Hartman.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Love it. Thank you for watching MSI Wealth Chronicles, building legacies one episode at a time. Thank you for tuning in. Visit us again.